So, how do we know when the status quo is no longer working? What does it take for us to see that the current model needs to be redesigned? For me, it took 12,000 heartbreaking conversations with students to fully understand how badly our model for educational transitions needs to be overhauled. I visit with entire high school graduating classes, and I ask them two questions. First, I ask them, who's excited about graduating from high school, moving on to university or college? 10 hands go up. Then I ask them, who's anxious about graduating from high school, moving on to university or college? 200 hands shoot up. During one-on-one conversations with students, I ask them, I say, tell me what you love to do. What takes up your time on the weekends and what makes you feel good? They tell me things like, I love learning about different cultures and I love making videos, or, I feel really good anytime I help my friends through difficulties. I say, great. What do you want to study after high school? And far too often, they slump their shoulders, look down at their shoes, and they say, oh, I'm going to do engineering because I've got to make money. Or, well, my parents say I have to do something practical, so I'm thinking either medicine or law. And they go from being so excited and enthusiastic and optimistic to saying, here's what I need to do if I want to be successful. Rather than seeing post-secondary as an opportunity to explore their interests and to build important skills, too many young people today see it as a means to a financial and social end. Rather than pursuing an education with a sense of purpose, too many are pursuing it out of a sense of obligation. So given the reasons for being on campus, should we really be surprised to hear that 65% of students report feeling overwhelming anxiety and 45% report major depression? Should we be shocked to hear that students generally are disengaged and uninterested in their educations? When I went back to school at the age of 30 to study psychology, I had learned through time and experience that I was fascinated by human motivation, achievement, and relationships. I was very curious about the research that we studied, and I was very engaged in the lectures. Unfortunately, most of my classmates didn't seem to share the same sense of excitement. In each of my courses, I would show up to the lecture hall, and I would take my seat in the back of the room. And I would sit there for 3 hours and see students all around me, shopping online, chatting on Facebook, and streaming sporting events. They would, of course, take a moment to jot down a few notes anytime the professor mentioned that something would be on the exam. But suffice to say, they were far more interested in getting a good grade than they were in learning anything of value. Sadly, this is more the rule than it is the exception today. Too many students attend classes not in the pursuit of knowledge, but in the pursuit of the status quo. They're striving for that all-important piece of paper, the diploma that they believe is their golden ticket to a successful career and a happy life. And they're suffering the consequences. But they don't have to. I'd like to introduce you to Michael. Michael's currently finishing up his first year at university where he's studying business. At the end of his first semester, Michael had managed to maintain a perfect A average. A remarkable feat for anybody in their first semester at university, but even more impressive when you consider that Michael's average when he left high school was a B. And anybody that's been to university knows that this jump in grades in the first semester is exactly the opposite of normal. This is Kate. Kate is currently executive assistant and media relations coordinator at an intellectual property firm. She got the job after bravely applying to an ad she saw on social media and skillfully articulating the value that she could bring to that company in an industry in which she had no previous experience. Kate's developed a skill that all successful people master, an ability and a willingness to push herself outside of her comfort zone on a regular basis. She'd be the first to tell you that until about a year ago, she wouldn't have had the confidence to pursue nor to perform in this new opportunity. And this is Josh. Josh is also finishing up his first year at university where he's studying computer science and psychology. Not only does Josh do well in his courses, but he finds people and experiences outside of the classroom walls that help him explore his interests and implement his strengths. During his first semester in university, Josh taught English online to students in China at 6 a.m. every day. 6 a.m. every day. And then went to a full day of classes. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called purpose. These are impressive feats for young people in today's world, a world where 14% of students drop out of university before the end of their first year, and 40% of recent university graduates are underemployed. And here's the thing. Michael, Kate, and Josh are, by every objective measure, ordinary. They have no greater intelligence, no greater access to resources than the majority of young Canadians. The one way in which they are extraordinary is that they were willing to stray from the well-worn path. They are innovators, and their willingness to try something new enabled them to build a sense of confidence and purpose that few of their peers enjoy. They're among the minority of students who made a deliberate decision to step off the academic treadmill for a purposeful gap year. During their gap year, they explored their own interests, values, and strengths, and they came to better understand how they could make use of their unique talents to improve the lives of others around them. So the question is then, if the benefits of a purposeful gap year are so great, why is it that so few students are choosing this path? And the answer is that everything they've seen and everything they've heard since the age of 5 has been pointing them down a linear path from elementary school to high school to post-secondary education to a successful career and a happy life. We push them along this path because we know that statistically, those who achieve a post-secondary credential fare better in terms of economic and social outcomes in the long run. The problem is that we all know that the path to true success is anything but linear. The problem is that we now know students on this academic treadmill are suffering mental health consequences at an unprecedented level. The problem is that no one seems to be actively encouraging young people to build their confidence, self-awareness, and adaptability outside of campus walls. Well, not nobody, actually. Since 1973, Harvard University has offered every admitted student the opportunity to take a purposeful gap year. In their offers of admission, they say, "We think you're great. We're accepting you to Harvard. Obviously, you're pretty talented. We'd love for you to come and study with us here. However, we'd prefer if you didn't come next year. We'd prefer if you took the year to go off and work, travel, volunteer, go out into the world and build a sense of purpose and gain an understanding of why you want to study, and then join us." The reason we offer you this opportunity is because over time we've seen the benefits to this program for young people. They come to campus more engaged, they perform better academically, and they actually have greater long-term outcomes in terms of career and life satisfaction. I'm not here to argue against the benefits of higher education. I think we're incredibly lucky to have the wonderful system that we do. I am, however, here to argue for purposeful education. And the kind of purpose I'm talking about doesn't magically show up at your door just because you happen to have finished the 12th grade. So, we've heard some of the benefits to students in taking a purposeful gap year. We now know that one of the most prestigious universities in the world actively encourages this practice. But the question remains, why is it that so few students are choosing this path? And the answer, I believe, lies in what psychologists would call irrational beliefs. Irrational beliefs are unfounded values, attitudes, and opinions that we hold that are out of sync with the way the world really is. I hear irrational beliefs from parents and students about gap years all the time. And I wanted to share the top 3 with all of you tonight. I think you'll find that you relate to them. Parents' irrational belief number 1. If my son or daughter takes a year off to work, they are going to love making money so much, they're going to get sucked into the job market, they'll never be able to go back to school. Anybody heard that one before? Show of hands. Okay, I won't ask who's thinking it right now, but I know you're out there. I've met you before. So the next question for everyone is, who here knows anybody who loves making minimum wage? Exactly. Me neither, in fact. But the reality is that students who choose this path to work for 1 year after high school before post-secondary will most likely be making minimum wage. And if you ask people that have taken this path, more often than not, they'll tell you that understanding what life looks like at minimum wage for 1 year was exactly the kind of motivation they needed to return to their studies once they knew what it was that they wanted to learn about. Furthermore, the American Gap Association in 2015 conducted a survey that highlighted 92% of students who take an intentional gap year return to their studies full-time the very next year. Parents' irrational belief number 2. If my son or daughter takes a year off from school, they're going to completely forget all their study habits, they're going to lose their academic momentum, and they'll never be able to go back. Anybody? Anybody? Guilty as charged. Yes, thank you for being honest. I'd like to introduce you to Rachel. Rachel's a high school dropout. She left school before completing the 11th grade. We'll just say she wasn't feeling it at the time, I guess. What's she up to now, 25 years later? Rachel is currently the director of an academic success program at a large university. Not bad for a high school dropout, right? If you're thinking to yourself, well, obviously, Jay, she had to go back to school to get that job, you're absolutely right. She did. When she was ready for it, she got her high school diploma. Then she went on to get her undergraduate degree. And not too long ago, Rachel completed her PhD in psychology. She's the perfect example of why a sense of purpose and an understanding of why we're studying is far more important for academic success than the ability to recite the periodic table of elements. So that's the parents. What about the students? Far and away, the most popular irrational belief I hear from students on a regular basis is, if I take a year off, I'll be a year behind. Thank you for joining me on that one. Some other people have heard that before too. So, what's funny about that, first of all, is the question is, what exactly are they going to be falling behind on? And the answer, as you likely know, is simply the status quo. And what's ironic about it is if you ask anybody who has ever taken a purposeful gap year, they'll tell you 2 things. Number 1, they'll tell you, I know it seems like a long time at the age of 18, but trust me, 1 year, it's just a drop in the bucket. And number 2, my gap year was, without a doubt, the most transformative period of my life. I learned so much about myself and the world around me. I built a sense of confidence and adaptability that enabled me to pursue the things in life that are actually meaningful to me, and I wouldn't be the same person today without it. So those are some of the irrational beliefs I hear from parents and students on a regular basis that I believe are making purposeful gap years prohibitive to many students. There is, of course, one more glaring reason why more students aren't choosing this path, and that's simply because we haven't offered them many meaningful options. And that's why 3 years ago, I set out to recruit an incredible community of educators, teachers, mentors, and coaches to help more young people gain access to the benefits of a year experienced through experiential learning, self-discovery, and skill development. In our program, every student works, travels, and completes a community service project over the course of the year. They also receive individual career coaching on a monthly basis. And they meet up for weekly workshops where we help them build the most important career and leadership skills for their future. But most importantly, over the span of the year, our students have the opportunity to learn from and to network with an inspiring community of over 100 mentors. Mentors who advocate for diversity and inclusion in the workplace, mentors who have won Stanley Cups and participated in the Olympics, mentors who have lost their life savings to failed businesses and gone on to build new, thriving companies. Mentors who have moved their family to another country for a better future. Mentors who have taken traumatic events in their own life and used them as fuel for future growth and development. And mentors who dedicate their lives to helping young people implement meaningful social change. The positive impact of this kind of community on our young people cannot be overestimated. Our mentors share a number of important character traits, perseverance, optimism, and generosity among them. But if I had to choose one trait that I thought best characterized the collective identity of our mentors, it would be courage. Courage to continually push themselves outside of their comfort zone and to live authentic lives. Courage to admit when they've made a mistake and to take responsibility for fixing it. Courage to put up their hand and say, I agree. The status quo may not be the best way. I'd love to help build something different. Like our students, our mentors have no special powers. They have character and they have purpose. Like our mentors, our students have courage. And I've learned over the past 3 years just how hard it can be for young people to choose something different, to stray from the status quo, and to step off the academic treadmill. It can be very hard. But like so many things in life that are hard, it can also lead to incredible fulfillment. I think nobody articulated this sentiment better than one of our mentors, Scott Robertson. Scott is an Indigenous rights lawyer here in Canada and one of the most purposeful professionals you could ever meet. He gave our students a workshop on critical thinking a number of months ago. And during the workshop, Scott told us about his gap year. And when he was coming to the end of high school, he knew he wasn't ready to go to university. So he decided to plan a year-long trip to Australia. And while planning his gap year, Scott went around and he asked 20 of his friends if they wanted to go with him. Every single one said no. So he went off on his own. And he told us during the workshop that in the 25 years that have passed since his gap year, every single one of those 20 people has come back to him and said, I wish I had done that with you. We need to help our young people avoid this future regret. We need to help them pursue an education with a sense of purpose. We need to help more young people live with a sense of confidence, self-awareness, and adaptability that Michael, Kate, and Josh live with today. And if I had to choose one quote that I thought best captured the essence of the work that we're trying to do, it would be Howard Thurman, who said, ask not what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And I like to say that a purposeful gap year is not a guaranteed one-year journey to success, but this 1 year is the start of a lifelong journey to significance. We need to strive to help our young people come alive. Believe me, it's a very fulfilling journey. Thank you.